Hey everyone, need some coffee. Okay, so I finished the campaign in Doom, and I have some mixed news about it. While it is definitely a huge step in the right direction, there are some major problems with it in terms of it being an arena shooter and following in the footsteps of Doom. I have to say that ultimately the game is not actually a Doom style game, but rather a Serious Sam style shooter. So the first half of the game actually really seriously feels like Doom to me. You use the auto map to find secrets. The encounters are varied. They're not just limited to arena style fights, which I don't mind arena style fights. I'll get to why there's a major problem when it comes to arena style fighting all the time a little bit later, but for the most part, the first half of the game actually does a really good job. I didn't notice the flaw in the arena style fighting until the moment after I got the BFG, and then I stopped and said, I waited. I said, wait a second. I can't even backtrack on half of these maps anymore because they're not linked up. Like I can't explore the levels anymore. If you miss a secret, you have to play the level over again because there are one-way paths. And once I noticed that, combined with the continuous arena shooter, arenas with spawning monsters, that's when it clicked on me, and I was like, oh, okay, so this game actually changes format about halfway through, and it is not actually a Doom style game. So Doom is a game where the levels are intricately laid out and monsters are placed within the world, while a Serious Sam is a game where you go from arena to arena where stuff spawns for a little while and then you move to the next arena. This isn't a bad thing by any means if that's what you want. The earlier levels in Doom were closer to Doom-style gameplay, but it seems the further you get into the game, the more painfully linear it becomes. There are a series of arenas that essentially spawn the same monsters over and over again, in the exact same order, over and over again, with almost zero regard to exposition or anything. Every fight goes like this from what I can tell, 5 to 10 imps and enforcer guys. Then you'll start seeing the Hell Knights. After that, Hell Knights and Revenants. You'll see them together. They always spawn together. Once that happens, you get to the Mancubus and Pinkies. Sometimes Pinkies will spawn with the Mancubi. Sometimes it'll just be Mancubuses. See, the Pinkies didn't really come into much later in the game, so they weren't combined with the Mancubuses. But once you're done with the Hell Knights and Revenants, once the Mancubuses start spawning, you can cleverly weave in the Summoner or Keiko Demons or Lost Souls randomly. So those guys were like the wild cards. Every single fight flowed like this. If there's a summoner, well, you're probably not going to see Lost Souls, and if there's Lost Souls, then you're probably not going to see any Keiko demons. But they would kind of be random. Sometimes you'd see them together. Sometimes, so those three monsters were the only ones that were like you didn't know if you were going to see one or not. Then once they spawn, the Baron of Hell, you can be sure that the fight is almost over. So Barons of Hell, two of them, typically speaking. I played on Ultraviolence. Every fucking fight ended with two Barons of Hell, maybe three. And I think in one rare case there was four. That's it. Like, two Barons of Hell, you know that the fight's over. So, I just used my chainsaw to kill one of them. That way I only had to fight one after that. So every fight went this way. I would literally save my chainsaw for the Baron of Hell. Every fight. Every fucking fight. And this was only after that first half of the game, though. The actual first half of the game, like, during that, I didn't know what was going to happen next. So, you got to be prepared. Once you start seeing this pattern, you got to be prepared to do it about 20 to 25 times before the game actually ends. And then they'll interdisperse like some large boss fights, which are pretty interesting. Not poorly designed boss fights, but actually pretty cool boss fights with health bars. You get to see how much health the boss has and everything like that. These things are they're not Doom, in my opinion, because health bars in boss fights are more of a it's something else. They're a different style of gameplay. I mean, that you might even say that fits a little bit more in the vein of Serious Sam. These are not monsters that you will eventually be able to just run into as regular monsters later on, because their mechanics are a little bit too advanced for them to be able to just like throw two cyber demons at you now, and those monsters are not going to be. You won't be able to just run into a spider mastermind or something like that as a regular monster. Maybe not without modifying them pretty heavily. So this same sequence took place maybe 15-20 times. I literally felt bored by the time I had to fight the final boss. I literally was. I was bored. Oh, here comes the Barons of Hell. I'm almost done with this part. Also, the boss fights were pre-canned sequences with health bars, which doesn't feel like Doom to me. It felt more like Serious Sam. It really is. This is more of a serious Sam game once you get to the second half. The first half is closer to Doom. Or, actually, I might add to that. I might say that it's actually better at being Serious Sam than Serious Sam was, which is a little weird. But when you get into that style of gameplay, the fact that the arenas were so intricately laid out, like deathmatch levels, whereas a Serious Sam encounter is typically just a fucking giant open flat room where you're just fighting, you're just shooting stuff and running backwards while firing your minigun. With Doom, you actually have to keep moving, and so if I was gonna actually say it, this is actually a step in the right direction from Serious Sam, more so than it is a step in the right direction for Doom. Which I found to be pretty interesting because the encounters themselves are actually pretty good if you can get away from the one major problem when it comes to Serious Sam style flow. So when you go from arena to arena, it leaves the designers with very little to actually work with, and being creative becomes extremely difficult because the encounters are not varied. In fact, the problems that I was talking about when it comes to the spawning order is something that even Serious Sam had to deal with. But with Serious Sam, they were able to do more wonky things. Maybe some encounters would end up being... But there's no build-up. There's no ultimate fight at the end. When it comes to arena-style gameplay, what you end up with is a series of very difficult, challenging things that are compartmentalized. So the next fight might actually be easier than the last fight you just did. Now, in the case of Doom, since all of the fights were the same exact thing, it didn't really matter. But in the case of Serious Sam, the final boss wasn't really the toughest fight. There might have been one other fight where shit was just absolutely brutal for no reason, just because they combined two things that normally were never combined before. So it's really difficult to get a really well-flowing game when you do nothing but continuous arenas. Either it becomes monotonous, or there is absolutely no way to guarantee that the final battle is the most climactic battle of them all. So, and that pretty much, I think that pretty much sums up. It's ultimately not a Doom or a Quake style shooter. The first half of the game was very fucking close, like as close as you're going to get, period. But as the game progresses around the point in time when you get the BFG, you will notice that you can't backtrack anymore because the levels are too linear, and that you are going from arena to arena with no real setup. So after the point I noticed when this change started to become too obvious was around that point in time. Like, it happens a little bit before that, but once you get the BFG, just be prepared for Serious Sam. It's not Doom anymore. I missed a lot of secrets. I missed a lot of secrets. I couldn't backtrack. You have to play the level over again. And to me, that right there is a fundamental problem. That right there indicates that this is not a Doom-style game. I should be able to hump every wall. After all the monsters are dead, I should be able to run around the whole map, hump every wall, search for secrets. I should be able to do all that stuff. If I can't do that, then you're not playing a Doom-style game. You're playing something else. Now, as far as the story and everything like that, I liked that they tried to have some kind of story, but in all honesty, I think that they need to take the story out of the levels in the future and literally just do a cutscene between the maps. I know it seems a little strange, but that's what they should do, is they should separate the storytelling literally from the game itself, and that the game should be more gamey, and it should be more along the lines of just corridors and interesting areas with more varied battles, things of that sort. So with that said, I'm going to take a really good look at SnapMap, and I'll have another video up soon where I talk about what SnapMap can do, because there's a possibility that SnapMap might actually have a lot of potential. I've taken some look at SnapMap so far. I'm having some really weird reactions personally to what it is, but knowing in practice what SnapMap is and what it could potentially become is what excites me about it. But it's only going to happen if they care about it and they continue to support it. If they don't do this, it's totally worthless. In its current state right now, from my limited looking at it, I looked at SnapMap for a couple hours. I'm going to have to say that I can't build anything interesting in it that's going to be different from anything else. And while I can make varied combat, I can change a lot of the things that I like, to make it feel more like a Doom style game without having to worry about story and having to find key cards to open doors and stuff like that. I can do those things. I don't think that I can make something that's going to feel like a quality experience like I can with making Doom levels in Doom 2, Doom Builder or something like that. Uh, the I guess that's really it. So I noticed a lot of other things too. SnapMap does not abide by the same flow and rules of single player. In fact, I noticed little annoying things like they fucking change your key bindings. Like I guess it's the multiplayer side of the game and it's not the single player side. So with that said, like you only carry two weapons. Good God, you can only carry two weapons, and what else? There's no mini map, which to me right there, boom, like how the fuck am I supposed to do anything with this? So what I want to try to do is actually sit down and actually build a really cool experience to the best of what SnapMap can provide, and I'm just gonna record that, and I'll put out my 2 cents about it in the next video, and that's that really. Like that's as good as it's gonna get. So anyway, take care. Stay tuned for more.